All right, Rob, we're a couple minutes past the hour, so let's kick this off. We've also got this live streaming up on YouTube for anybody that has any difficulties that needs to,
Mhm.
wants to continue seeing it. We can cruise over there. But in the so all right, so welcome everyone. I want to thank you for joining the latest installment of our learning series. We're bringing this back as we head into 2023. And with me, I've got a couple familiar faces for those of you that follow us on MSP Business School as well. I've got my co-host in crime over in that platform, Rob Rogers and Tim McNeil with me today. And Tim, you might want to change your name in your window too, or people are going to get confused.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah, maybe I should.
But with that being said, today's topic is really focused on something that I know is very important to a lot of MSPs. Obviously, all of us are looking to expand our organizations and grow our lead base and make more customer acquisition. And Rob shared these numbers with me a while back, and they're pretty staggering in terms of how simple it can be to take the effort you're putting forth today and double it.
Yeah.
And double your opportunity and double your acquisition, in the same cost, same time frame. So with that being said, I want to welcome Rob Rogers and Tim McNeil from OSR Manage. And guys, why don't you kick off for those that don't know you and give a little bit about your background and who OSR Manage is, and and then we'll launch into today's topic.
Sure. So for me, Tim and I are with OSR Manage. I am the CEO over there. I'm kind of in the visionary seat for our company, and we are sales managers as a service. So we do the recruiting, the training, and the daily management, accountability, and coaching of sales reps, everything from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. And that's where I kind of come from in our company. I kind of lead the strategic road mapping for clients. And Tim, if you want to jump in and say where you are.
Yep. Tim McNeil. My focus within OSR, I'm the COO. Really, what I focus on is bringing in new business. So I'm in charge of the business development side as well as the recruiting side. I would say I'm very good in the situational coaching with sales reps and owners and taking them through different aspects of the sales pipeline. That's kind of where I hang my hat. So.
Perfect. And in addition to OSR Manage, I know some of you have been on previous broadcasts, but Rob and Tim also had a opportunity or something that they brought to us over at BCIO Toolbox about beginning a kind of an on-demand coaching platform as well. Mm-hmm. So the three of us are partners along with my partner Ken in a platform called Sales Maturity, which is a bit of an on-demand coaching tool. And some of what we're going to show you today is found both in OSR's virtual sales management programs as well as within the platform also. But today's topic and what people I'm sure are really here to understand is how can we double our sales opportunities easily, quickly, without additional effort? And what have you guys learned doing now over 1 million cold calls, with your sales teams? And Rob, I think you've got some information to share with us. So why don't I pass the torch to you, and you can bring up the information that you've got.
Sure thing. So just real quick, Brian, can you see my screen?
Sure can.
Yep. Okay. All right, great. So, thanks for having us on here, Brian. Tim and I did this presentation at IT Nation a few weeks ago, and we're going to kind of use the same style that we did over there just to, bring it into your clients as well. It was very well received. It was very flattering, actually. ConnectWise and all the surveys said that it was a very well thought out presentation and gave a lot of value. Whenever Tim and I are doing a presentation for anybody, and we haven't done this one in years, we always like to have it very well researched, put a lot of time, a lot of effort in, and not only just to tell people what the problem is out there in the industry as it relates usually to prospecting, but how to fix it. right? We always come to the table with a well thought out fix. So we don't just tell you what the problem is and tell you need to go somewhere and try and find a solution, or just give you some vague solution. The solution that we're going to talk about here today is a worksheets that everybody can have access to and do themselves. So it's hopefully by the end of this presentation, you have found the value in this. We have proven ourselves and proven the numbers that we are going to show here. And then at the end of it, you have actionable steps to go to your MSP in your territory and gain a competitive advantage over everybody else before they start catching on to this, which is going to be a paradigm shifting prospecting tool. Tim and I came up with the first paradigm shifting prospecting tool 12 years ago with the contract end date system. And now we believe that this is going to change everything moving forward over the next 1 to 3 years. So with that, I'm going to kind of jump into this, for everybody. Just make sure I got it. Okay. Real quick, I know we kind of went over, who we are, but just to break it back down a little bit, Tim, not only does he handle all the recruiting in our company, all the situational coaching, but he also handles all the top of the pipeline for our company. So just to reiterate, he handles all marketing qualified leads, all sales qualified leads, the coaching, the accountability, and the management in that part. And Jake, who is not on the call with us today, he handles all client acquisition through partnerships and also mid and closing pipeline. So we handle a lot of different things for our clients as it relates to sales and marketing development. And that's who we have here today. I'm more of the data guy. Like, I wear the glasses. And Brian, you didn't comment on my new glasses. These are my new Clark Kents. And I'm more of the data guy. I'm the Dungeons and Dragons nerd. I'm the video gamer. And I handle all data analytics in our company. So let's kind of jump into this here and talk about what we're going to do. We're going to show you all the data that we have collected from all of the marketing companies that we work with, all of the sales clients or the sales employees that we manage, and show you over the 1 million touch points that we have in the last 2 years. That's calls, that's door knocks, and that's one-to-one LinkedIn engagements as well. There's no marketing blast. There's nothing like that. This is all salespeople picking up the phone, trying to get in hold of a prospect and how successful they were. Number one. Number two, we're going to give you 3 different tips and tactics that you can use going back into your company with the worksheets attached, so you can take this data and use it for yourself. Brian said earlier that, we do sales maturity, in our company. And what I want to just relate to everybody here is we built this model just like Paul Dippel's operational maturity levels. And everybody understands that. It's the, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it starts at the base, the foundations level, development level, and moves up through growth, excellence, and through leadership. Today's presentation is a level 2. This is a sales development. This is after you have your referral systems all squared away, and you now have an employee that's doing other things for you in the prospecting mode, and that's where this level is going to be. So for anybody out there that wants to understand how you build your sales department, this is the way that we instruct people to do it. Get all your foundational stuff done first, then work on sales development, your sales growth, and so on. Okay, let's jump into this. Cracking the code. How did we find out that, out of our 1 million calls, there was a way that it needed to change for people to get a competitive advantage in the marketplace? And just to give you a quick story, Brian, real quick, we kind of it was fortuitous that we found this system as fast as we did. It should have taken us about another year and a half before we found it. But Tim and I were at ASCII. Gosh, this was a year ago at this point.
Oh, yeah. At least.
And we were sitting at the bar with a guy named Brett Jaffe, great guy. He's an industry insider, owned an MSP, and now he's in the channel. He works with Audit for IT and Connextract, great guy. And we were talking with him and another guy, Al Arper, who was a very successful MSP in New York, an MSP and an MSSP in New York. And we're sitting there, Tim, I don't know, we were on at least our 5th or 6th poor decisions for that night with these guys.
Yeah, much more than that, but that's fine.
I'm trying to be polite here. And so we were all talking the way that four ADHD guys were, and we were flittering from one conversation to the next. And then Al, I specifically remember this, Al jumped in and said, oh, for marketing, and this guy owns a very successful MSP. Let me preface that. He said, for marketing, I love Robin Robbins. And when I tell you that Tim and I, it was like a visceral response, we kind of backed up because we were on the other side of that discussion point. And we just went back and forth, facts and figures, anecdotes, everything to, just really try and prove our case on how we were right and he was wrong. And it was just, it started like the temperature started elevating a little bit, on both sides of it. And finally, Brett, who is the old military guy, he's always the consummate professional. He said, guys, Rob, Tim, you're being flipping idiots. You're missing the boat. He didn't say flipping though. And we kind of all laughed and just flittered off into the next conversation, but it stuck with me. It stuck with me because I am the data guy and I have to know that I am right at all times, anytime that I'm doing something in sales. And I could not prove my case and make him believe me, Al specifically and Brett. But, I went back to our company and I started analyzing the numbers. And like I said, I am the data nerd in our company. And I analyze everything from the very top of the sales funnel, the marketing funnel, marketing qualified lead, sales qualified lead, discovery, technical proposal, outcome. I monitor everything. And I monitor everything in 3 buckets when it comes to marketing qualified leads. You either do nothing, right? You use an outsourced digital agency, or you have an internal marketing person. And so when I look back and I went back into our company and I analyzed the numbers, lo and behold, when I looked at Robin Robbins, I was right. And Brett and Al owed me a beer for sure. And it was pretty impactful, right? When I kind of teased out the Robin Robbins side, and because what we typically do in our marketing and sales environment on the, inside of the MSPs here is marketing does their thing, right? And they do a very good job out there. But then they bring in a lead comes in some capacity. They go, oh, great, we have a lead. And they shoot it over to sales, or they shoot it over to the owner. Somebody gathers that lead and then takes it and runs with it, right? And that's kind of like how the system works right now. And these are the numbers that it was showing. Tim, you can expand on this. You know why?
Yeah. So what we're seeing here is Rob was right to a certain extent. If you're only doing Robin Robbins and that's it, and you're not following up on any of the leads, Robin Robbins doesn't work. And when we say Robin Robbins, we say that because people know who that is. I mean, really what we mean is mailing systems, right? Or sending out mailers and then following up on them. Where the mailing system doesn't work is if you don't follow up on those things that you're sending out, the return is really next to nothing. What we have seen is almost zero. I mean, literally almost zero over a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the digital marketing and sending out things through social media, et cetera, that's more of a reach and frequency, right? It's more of a shotgun effect. Think of it like a shotgun effect. You're touching a lot of people. You're seeing a lot of people are seeing what you're sending out there. And that can generate more leads than only sending out a Robin Robbins campaign or a mailing campaign. But in this scenario, with no follow-up, it's a bit of a struggle. Bit of a struggle.
Guys, I'd like to stay on this for a minute because there's a lot of MSPs that I talk to that are really looking just to do, I want to outsource my marketing. And there's a very telling number that I'm seeing on here, 1 appointment every 4 months.
Yeah.
So you're really talking about an investment that can cost, potentially thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, getting you 3-4 appointments a year.
Yeah. The typical spend for a marketing company right now is right around $2,000 to $3,500 if you're buying a full boat service. But the full boat service is your websites, your SEO, your social media, your email campaigns, and that's where they typically are. But one thing I did want to reiterate is whenever you're thinking about marketing, it's reach and frequency. You're trying to reach the right targets with the right amount of frequency. And the Robin Robbins system, because you're only sending out 25 mailers a week, you're not reaching enough people per month in order for it to work. So that's why the outsourced digital marketing agencies are doing better in this approach, because they're blasting out thousands on a monthly basis, to reach the right people, and having a frequency of like a once a week or twice a week. So they're having more touch points, and that's why the system was working so well.
But I look at that though, and if you look at the investment that you just talked about there, I'm sure many of the folks on the call today are wondering, is there a return on investment on these marketing activities? Are you better ramping up just some other tactic? And I know you're going to explain where you can accelerate this, but just a very telling number, because this is a topic I've been hearing from a lot of customers of late that are like, I'm just going to outsource digital marketing in 2023. And I think folks got to really look at it with a realistic lens and say, look, you're going to spend about, if I'm using your numbers, Rob, somewhere between 25 and 30 grand for the year to get 3 or 4 appointments. Can you get an ROI on that?
I will say that marketing leads that come to you have a higher close rate than a cold call lead, right? Consider a marketing qualified lead coming into you based on your marketing. Those people are already past all the, they have pain. Right? They're calling you because they have pain. So they do have a higher close rate, and the close rate's right around 50%. It's kind of like a referral close rate, but you get so little of them that it's really hard to justify. So you have to kind of do those numbers in your head. If they're doing the traditional marketing approaches, right? I would hire an internal person before I hired an outsourced company, but that's just my opinion. Because you can control the narrative, and we'll go into that, in the next couple of slides. But did you have any other questions on this slide here, Brian, before we kind of moved on?
No, that was just a telling number that I don't think resonated with me the first time I saw this. And it's interesting because I'm seeing more and more MSPs really talking about just going to a digital only approach. And, let's go proceed, because I'm sure you're going to tell me why I can't.
Yeah. And let me tell you why you can't, Brian.
Yeah.
And that wasn't meant to be a softball.
So, but here's the thing, guys, to kind of go back to the narrative of, when we were talking with, the two guys at ASCII, when I saw these numbers and I saw how terrible the Robin Robbins system was, and I knew Al was being very successful with it, I decided, instead of categorizing this into 3 buckets, digital, or outsourced, internal, or nothing, I decided to give Robin Robbins her own bucket, right? Because if you think about it, the direct mail cadence is different than they go out, they blast emails, they do SEO, they do all those kind of things. So I created a separate bucket for anybody who was using the Robin Robbins system. And out of 427,000 calls, it turns out I was less right than I had originally hoped. It was shocking, Brian. It was actually embarrassing, a little bit embarrassing, because my prejudice against the system showed, right? And here's the numbers to bring everybody through. The very top horizontal bar is BDR, which is your business development rep. Anybody picking up that phone for you. So if you have a business development rep, and you have an outsourced digital marketing agency, out of 427,000 calls in 2021, it took that rep 302 calls to get an appointment. If you had a business development rep with an internal digital marketing person, it took 303. And those numbers don't, they're not statistically different, right? It's the same thing. But if you had a BDR just by themselves, again, you were right around 300 calling attempts to get 1 appointment. That is brutal. That's 1 appointment a week sometimes, right? So you make about 80 to 100 calls a day. And out of those 80 to 100 calls a day, you're getting 1 person to say, okay, I'll have an appointment with you after 300 attempts.
But think about it from a personnel perspective too. You got to keep that rep motivated who's just not feeling success, right?
Well, it's terrible, right? I will say that prospecting in the MSP industry is hands down the hardest industry I've ever been in, right? And I've worked with several different industries, and this one is tough. It's tougher than insurance for sure, right? Because people don't like to make the move, right? They're talking about something that they don't understand, and then they're talking about something that's going to be a heavy lift on the transition. right?
There's a
change.
lot of loyalty to the existing MSP, and there's a lot of forgiveness too. One of the things that makes customer acquisition hard is one of the things that we benefit from when we do make the customer relationship. We can have a few missteps before they make a change, because the change is a bit of a challenge too. Transition is not easy.
The transition is very difficult. But what we found was that if you did a BDR with a Robin Robin Systems cadence, it dropped down to 150 attempts, got you that one appointment. And as soon as we saw that number, me, Tim, and the rest of the mucky to muck managers that we have over here at OSR, we got together and we were like, okay, we have to go talk to our reps, the reps that are using the Robin Robin system, and find out why. And Tim, jump in here. There was two things that we found out that were very important.
Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest thing is the sales rep, especially in this industry. And Rob had just mentioned that this truly is one of the harder industries to get an appointment, in my opinion, as well. What tends to happen with sales reps is, and this is a general statement, not specific to the MSP world, just generally with salespeople, they tend to stop making calls after 4 attempts, right? Whereas in this industry, you really need at least 7 to 12 touches before you get that first appointment. So then how do you get that salesperson to stay motivated and be happy? You got to give them a purpose, and sending out mailers and having something to reference. One, it makes the sales rep happier, because they have a purpose. They have a reason to call somebody. It's not just a, hey, I'm just following up. How you doing? And also it limits that call reluctance. This is just a natural thing, whether you are a top 1% salesperson or not. Call reluctance happens if you're calling the same prospects over and over, right? Because a lot of times there isn't really a next step. It's you call them first two times you call them, you might leave a message. Second 2 times you call them, you may not leave a message. And then that 5th call, you go in, you realize you've called this person 4 times and there's been absolutely nothing. And it's really easy to just kind of, we're going to skip that one and go on to the next one. Whereas if you have a mailer or a Robin Robin system, there's always an action item. There's always a talking point. Yeah. There's always a next step. And that by itself, or that alone, is extremely powerful for a sales rep to keep them engaged.
Yeah. Well, it's all about confidence too, right?
Yes.
A sales rep who's, our jobs as sales rep is to get paid for our rejection, right? Because the reality is there's more rejection than any acceptance we can get. But it's also hard when you're getting rejected and you don't feel like you have a reason to pick up the phone, and just being able to say, hey, I sent you X. Did you get that? Mm-hmm. Even if they threw it straight in the old circular file, you just feel better because you're like, I'm not just intruding on these people's day. I'm calling because I sent you something and I want to get a reaction, right? Mm-hmm. And just that can I know for me, it changes the dynamic of that cold call a little bit, where, I just feel like, look, the worst they can tell me is, no, I have no clue what you're doing, but I did do that action. Mm-hmm. I'm not calling out of the clear blue, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm. It makes it a little bit warmer of a call. So there was 2 things, like Timmy said, that came out of it. Number 1 was the rep had a more enjoyable call and they had more turns at bat. Mm-hmm. Right? The people picked up more. And because they picked up more, the reps were more engaged in between the slumps of not having people pick up the phone. Right? Because, Brian, you know this better than anybody. A rep's pace determines their success. Right? And the PACE is an acronym for passion and product knowledge, active listening skills, communication and charisma, and empathy. And so if that rep is more passionate when they're on the phone, that passion leaks through to the other person, and they're having a better conversation. And that confidence that you were talking about earlier comes through, and it makes it more of an engaging call, right? So as soon as we found this out, that the reps were more engaged in the call and they were getting more people on the phone, we were like, okay, this can't be Robin Robbins, right? She did not corner the market. She doesn't have the golden tickets, right? She doesn't have the golden leads. This isn't a Robin Robbins thing. We realized that at that point that it was a direct mail cadence system going into a sales cadence. So mm-hmm. no longer could you do just calling and going for it. The cadence now starts at the direct mail piece. Mm-hmm. And that was our theory. And so once we immediately told all of our managers to go out to all of our clients, change the marketing that they were talking about with their clients to, instead of just the marketing doing SEO, social media, email blasting, newsletters, and those things. Those things are very important. I'm not saying don't do those. Please don't send me an email saying, cussing me out about that. Marketing is very important in that aspect. The direct mail piece is what we wanted to put at the top of the list to make it the number one priority, and then cascade down into everything else. Make the direct mail cascade down. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I mean, each one of those things you're talking about is branding, right? And when we talk about branding and building awareness, it's having those multiple touch points. So when your customer or when your rep is getting to that 6th or 7th call, there's just that little mind shift, right? If you can get somebody on the other side of the line that goes from "I've never heard of you guys" to "Oh, I think I've heard of you guys," or "I think I've seen you," or even better, if they think they already met you at a trade show that you didn't attend or something that, it's a win, right? Yeah. And that happens through them seeing your brand a couple different ways. So when I look at marketing versus the sales approach, at least from my seat, marketing is there to build the brand awareness. So the sales rep, when they get in there, might get that instead of the "I've never heard of you guys" to the "Oh, I think I've heard of you guys." It's a subtle change. And then you throw in the Robin's approach or the direct mail approach. That's just, to me, an example of what's old becomes new again. Now that we are getting inundated, everybody look at your own mailboxes and go, how many emails did you get? I mean, I know even you got 3 from me in advance of this meeting or this session, right? We get a little tone deaf to this stuff. That direct mail is now becoming fashion again, because how much of us actually get mail? How many people get a handwritten letter or a lumpy box in the mail anymore? If nothing else, it stands out. And if it's got your logo on it, that's a big imprint. That's going to shift that know, like, and trust kind of that we need to build in the call and get you from, "I don't know who you guys are," to, "Oh, I think I've heard of you before."
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say what's old is new. I mean, that's literally one of the things that Rob and I were talking about just a couple hours ago when we were prepping for this. Some of the direct mailing tactics that we are now pushing out to our clients are things that we found successful when we were in the industry. And admittedly, we got away from them for a while, because at the time when we transitioned out of the MSP world, it was the digital side was really up and coming, and you could be more successful on the digital side. Yeah. Well, what we're finding now is there's a lot of white noise out there. Just a lot of white noise when it comes to digital, whether it's emails, newsletters. And again, going back to what Rob said, not that you don't do those, you have to do those. But to be different now, it's shifting back to mailing.
Right.
And we're just seeing significantly better results with those mailings.
I mean, we could do a whole different call on cadence, right? Because sometimes the worst thing you can do is put out too much of that electronic mail, because then it just becomes totally mind-numbing. But when you look at a direct mail piece and the fact that it gives a trigger for a sales rep to go into, and I want to make sure that everybody caught the part that Rob said a little bit earlier, because I don't think we've touched upon it as we showed these numbers. We're only talking about 25 pieces maybe a week. Yeah. You're keeping it very focused. Rob, I'll put in your pitch for your Dream 250 here. Add a very specific set of customers that you've identified as top prospects, and then you're following up that way. So it also keeps costs under control. You're really not adding heavy budget in this process either.
Yeah. So to kind of move on, our theory was that direct mail is the move, right? And like adding a direct mail component to the cadence is where you can really find success. So in 2022, let me just in 2022 we did that. And so like for the first 10 months, I analyzed all this information for the IT Nation presentation. And so far this year, we've made 618,000 calls, door knocks, and LinkedIn engagements with people out there. And just to kind of bring you through this slide a little bit, the BDR, the business development rep, the person making the calls, with an outsourced digital marketing agency was 309, right? No big change there. And the reason there's no big change there, quite simply, was they can't change their model on a dime, right? You can't be somebody who's focused on SEO and social media and then all of a sudden become a direct mail, company. And it's not fair to ask them to do that. But look what happened when the internal digital marketing person this year changed their primary focus. They're still doing their other pieces, changed their primary focus to direct mail first and controlling that narrative and that cadence. it dropped down to 161 calling attempts to get one appointment. That is amazing. And to me, it proved the case that direct mail, not Robin Robbins, the direct mail system is the move for the next foreseeable future. And if you can coordinate those pieces, and we're going to show you a way to coordinate them, if you can coordinate those two pieces, you're going to beat your peers. Number one, by making your reps stay more engaged. And number two, getting more appointments for the same velocity, right? The same amount of reach and frequency. You're going to have 2 times the ability to get to those appointments, and having more at bats means you have more closes at the end of the day, right? The one thing that I do want to kind of circle to talk about here is the business development rep, and I'm going to do it in the next slide. Hey, Brian, is there a couple of questions that are coming in?
Oh, no, well, questions aren't coming in. What I'm doing is kind of sending out some of the key points that you're making
Okay.
here
I just
as
wanted
we
to
go
make sure.
through as well.
Okay.
But you know what I really want to focus on here is how do you maximize team too, right? And what you're really showing is these salaries that you're paying as an owner for a business development rep, for an inside marketer. If you really want to maximize the efficiency out of those people, you got to layer in this direct mail approach too.
Yeah.
And it's not shocking to me that all of a sudden that number becomes consistent with the BDR, with the Robin Robbins, because you're really talking about the same kind of initial approach model. You're just spreading out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see the numbers are fairly consistent too, right? Because you take these 600,000 this year, 400,000 you made last year, there's where we get our magic million, right? But more importantly, we've seen that those numbers are very consistent. They're all kind of in that 150-ish kind of range, and still half of what it takes otherwise. So if you look at those resources you're paying to everybody on the call, my biggest thing is resource cost. Hey, if I'm going to go BDR and ODM and I'm not sprinkling in this other piece, I'm going to pay twice as much for my lead.
Yeah.
Just that's the fact. And if you want to maximize your spend and maximize your resources time, you've got to do this, is what it's telling me.
And so what it should, oh, sorry, Timmy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and even beyond that, to your point, that 309 to 1, what you're going to have is not only less appointments, you're going to have a frustrated department
All day long.
And that, that's not a good thing.
Turn and turnover, baby.
Yeah. And, Timmy knows this better than anybody on the call because he handles all the recruiting for our company, which, kind of leads me into the next part here. So I kind of want to take you through this graph, right? The blue is in comparison to the green, and it's BDR 2021, 2022 versus BDR and ODM, and then all the way across. But the really significant thing, and I'll be really quick because I want to move on, we're kind of getting in there in time, is look at the BDR by themselves. In 2021, they were at 299 calls. In 2022, they were up over 337. That is statistically important. It's a 10% increase, and it's bad, right? It's showing that because of the Great Resignation, reps are leaving you for $5,000 a year more to going somewhere else, and they're leaving you to go to places with marketing, and it's causing a lot of headwinds that we have to fight our way through. So 2 of the things that we're going to show here in the next coming slides is just that, is being able to get that rep. If you can't afford a full-blown marketing initiative out there, some of the things that we're going to show you is guerrilla marketing styles that the rep can use by themselves, the sales rep, to give themselves that competitive advantage and get their own numbers back down into where it is closer to having that internal digital marketer. All right.
Perfect.
So real quick before we move on, I want to talk about this yellow graph. The yellow bars across the top. Timmy earlier alluded to call reluctance, and it is a significant thing that we have to fight through in our industry. And it's something that's very important for you as a business owner or somebody that's out there doing this right now, what you need to understand. Those yellow bars are the call reluctance and what it means. So Tim, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, really what we're looking at here is for the BDR, for the left 2, you're looking at 7 calls to 1 appointment. And like I'd mentioned before, most sales reps stop making calls after call 4. It's just a proven fact. So going back to that call fatigue that we had talked about, or the call reluctance, not only are the sales reps that don't have marketing campaigns behind them, not only are they making more calls, it's taking them more calls to the same person, which is really degrading the overall not only appointment quality, but just the headspace of that salesperson. Whereas if you look at the right two graphs, those are more in line. You're looking at about 4.5 and about 3.5 calls per appointment. I can tell you as a salesperson who is, now granted, I may not be making a lot of cold calls now, but I have made a lot of cold calls in my day. And it's not that enjoyable. So if you can give a rep a means to an end that is a first-time appointment in half the amount of dials to a prospect, it's not even worth its weight in gold. It is the golden ticket for a salesperson.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah.
It will change everything in your company if you are sitting down across the table from a candidate, if you're looking to hire a salesperson, and you can show them that, hey, once out of every 3.5 to 4.5 calls, or 4.5 times calling a prospect, you've got a chance of getting an appointment with them. That's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I mean, the key in this stat is getting them before that call reluctance settles in, right? If you can show
Exactly.
a path to that, you're going to have a much more happy staff, and the better the morale is on the sales team, everybody knows the better the production, because it's also the kind
That's
of
the way.
game that ebbs off of momentum.
Mhm.
Yep. 100%. Totally agree. Are there any questions, Brian, on this one for you? Are you good?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing, that you hit here is, get them early, get them often, get them in a combination approach, right? I mean, that's what's really resonating with me as I think about how this could be implemented with our BDR efforts.
Sure. Okay. All right. So at the end of the day, fellas, we can no longer have a marketing department and a sales department, right? Marketing doing their own thing and then shooting over any leads over to the sales department, which is the traditional and, approach that everybody uses. They have to be coordinated, they have to be in sync, and they have to be in gear together. And so now what I want to do is I want to take everybody through a cadence. This is the cadence that we use in our company right now. And where it used to start at the green line, the starting line, and we would have a 9-step cadence, day 1, 3, 6, 10, and on and on. Now it is no longer there. The marketing department, sorry, sales guys, the marketing department is now in charge. And the marketing department starts the cadence on day -3, right? That's when they send out that direct mail piece. And then the regular cadence starts up after that. Now, real quick, this is a successful cadence. It is not the successful cadence. You know what I mean?
That said, I just put it in the notes, screenshot now, because so many times we're looking for any cadence to follow. And if you guys have seen this to work in any degree, this is a good moment. So make sure you're getting your screenshots out there.
Yep.
Well, look, this is a great starting point. And just like Rob said, it's a cadence. It's not necessarily your cadence. But what I would say and follow up to what Rob said is, if you're going to switch things around, make sure that you're not duplicating efforts in order. What I mean by that is in this cadence on day 3, you're doing a LinkedIn reach out. But on day 6, in our system or in our cadence, we recommend sending out a video, like an email video. If you're not somebody who believes in email video, or you just don't want to do it, don't do another LinkedIn reach out on day 6. Make it something different. Maybe it's a client testimonial. We've seen more and more clients. They actually have people come into their office. They have their clients coming into the office. They hire a crew and they tape testimonials. They'll tape 5, 10, 15 testimonials, and that's what they put in their email cadence. That's just one example. But again, just don't do the same message over and over. It's all about being different and hitting them from different aspects.
Yeah, we 100% agree with that. Okay. All right. So now that we've taught you the cadence, they taught you a cadence that works well. Let's go into 3 different styles of direct mail approach. These first 2 are going to be for a sales rep that they can do themselves. It's within the budget of time that they can handle, that doesn't take them off the phone too much, right? So what we're going to do, these first 2 are for a sales rep, and the third one is very complicated. right? It's a contract end date version 2, and you have to have a marketing person, whether it's a part-time marketing person or whatever. You have to have somebody that controls this, because there's a lot of different touch points, there's a lot of different segments, and there's a lot of different things that they need to be concerned with that is very time consuming, and the rep should not do this. The sales rep is what I mean.
Yeah.
So these are the 3.
Yep. And also just want to jump in real quick. If everybody sees that link down on the bottom of the page, the salesmaturity.com/IT Nation or ITN 2022, this is the exact same presentation that Rob had done in IT Nation, like you'd mentioned before. We did create a landing page. So not only this slide deck, but other supporting documents will be on that landing page if you'd like to visit it. And you can download anything from there.
Yeah,
I just posted that into chat for everyone. So if you do want to grab it, oops, actually, it looks like I might have done that to host and panelists. We'll get it out to everyone.
Okay.
Good. All right. Okay.
Okay. Non-traditional holidays and non-traditional cadences. So what do we mean by that? The biggest thing that you want to do when you're sending out mailers is you got to figure out a way to be different. The biggest thing, or one of the bigger things that we've found, is sending out cards on non-traditional holidays. And a couple of examples of that, which we have up on the screen, is National Donut Day. You can have a message that revolves around, hey, do you have any holes in your cybersecurity? Why don't we sit down and we can have a conversation about how we can plug those holes? Or National Hangover Day is, I think it's January 1st or January 2nd. Everybody sends the traditional holiday card or Thanksgiving card. They don't always send non-traditional cards. And one of the better examples that I can give anybody that's on here, anybody listening, is Leap Day. Now, unfortunately, it only happens every 4 years. But if you send out a Leap Day card, who else is doing that? I can tell you that Rob and I have done it the last 3 Leap Days, and I've already got the calendar circled for 2024. The first time I did it, we were actually still in the industry, and I'd sent out a Leap Day card to about 60 prospects, and it generated 7 appointments. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say you're going to get those exact same results, but what I am saying is you just have to think outside the box. And in one of the places that we look for these non-traditional holidays is calendar.com. And then oftentimes we recommend going to a send out cards or some equivalent of send out cards to get these cards out to your prospects and to your list, right? You want to be doing about one of these per month. And we have the cadence broken out in here for anybody that's interested in doing this.
I was just taking a look at what today's national days are, because if anybody's wondering, there's 6 days listed here today. And the first one was World Trick Shot Day. And I can already see building a promotion where you could send out an email with a dude perfect video and go, hey, if you can't do this kind of thing with your network, you got to call us, right? So there's always a creative way to build out something, and have a link to that. But it is amazing. Every day has about 5 or 6 different things being celebrated. So if you can't find something untraditional that speaks to you, you haven't tried hard enough.
So Brian, I want to interrupt real quick there. So did you see how you just smiled there when you looked at that? See, that is what we're trying to get the prospect to do. That quick little smile that really means nothing, but gave them like a little bump in their day. That peak when they thought of us is going to be remembered when the sales rep calls. When they call like within that time period, and that little smirk is going to be remembered in their head. And that is what's happening with these prospects, and why the direct mail is driving down the appointments to calls ratio so significantly. That encapsulates everything right there.
It's amazing, and you can get really creative. I'm looking here. Today's also National Microwave Oven Day. Imagine if you just sent out a little Easy Mac in a box with a card saying, "Hey, just in case you don't have lunch because you're working on IT problems."
Yep. And that
Exactly.
would be an
National
example
Microwave
of
Day.
and we would
Yes.
do that for an elevated prospecting model for the Dream 250.
Yeah.
And because it's a kind of a shock and awe box, we would incorporate that as well. Sorry to interrupt you, Timmy. There, I saw Brian
Yeah, yeah.
smile, and I was like, that right there, that's what
Yeah.
we're going for.
That's what it's all about. And I used this example at a discussion that we had last week when in Nashville for an evolved peer group. It having like when I did the leap day card, all it was just a little dog on a beach, and he was jumping in the air, and that one day generates 56 or 53 million dollars to the GDC. I just put that stat in the card, put a little line that said, hope some of this jumps on your bottom line, and send them off. And it was so powerful the first time that we did it. We had a meeting with a prospect 2 months after we sent it out. And that card was still sitting on their desk.
Yeah. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so like these right here, real quick, this example, this non-traditional holiday direct mail cadence is usually built around a mailing piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these you can use for any of your prospects out there. It's a very low price point, right? It's just the cost of a card. And I think, Tim, the last time we checked for send out cards, it was $2.80, something like that.
Around
So
there, yeah.
it's something like that. And so it's a very low price point to get yourself into the cadence system. And so, like if you're just going to blast out, 50 of them, the 50 would be the top number that I would use in any week. Because you got to remember, if the rep's going to send these 50 out, then they have to follow up with that, in that week, and then they have to follow up in the week after. So 50 in first week turns into 100 in the second week, which turns into 150 in the third week. So it starts to accumulate pretty fast. So don't send more than about 50 of these unless you have a very powerful rep that can handle it.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the level 1 prospecting tool for, mass prospecting. For this one, this is more of the ideal, the Dream 250, that sweet spot clients.
Yeah, and this is something that we see a lot of, personally, we see a lot of our clients doing on a regular basis. One of the things we found extremely successful is, look, everybody's got a business journal. Generally speaking, every area has a business journal. You can go to bizjournals.com and see which one is closest to your area. One thing that we see a great amount of success with, and the example that I give everybody is, you want to look through these business journals, and you want to find an article that's technology driven, but it doesn't necessarily have to associate with the MSP world. An example I can give you is I remember somebody printing out an article about how a point of sale system was working extremely well for a number of local restaurants in that given area. And the sales rep they printed off this article. They made it in a really nice copy format, and they sent it out to 20, 25 people. And they just wrote a handwritten note on the copy and said, "Hey, hope this, I noticed this segment of small businesses in the area was using technology to their advantage, and would love the opportunity to talk to you about how our technology may be able to help you." It's finding those little things that make you different, that are sent out to that elevated group of prospects. It's that personal touch point, and it's the way that you move people forward through your pipeline, your prospecting pipeline, to get that first time appointment.
Yeah. So these are more of the elevated approaches. So, not only do you can do that, but all your business journals have a lead list, right? The top 10 of healthcare, the top 10 of this, top 10 of that. But one of the things that you do when you're sending out, if you see somebody in your local business journal that is a prospect, right, either in your system or not in your system yet, and you see them and you want to go after them, and you send them this congratulations card. If you've never talked to them before, you're going to send it out to the CEO of that company and the person in the article that was mentioned, if they're two different people. right? Both of them get the card. Congratulations. We saw that you guys made, the number 7 on the highest ranking, whatever, just congratulations. And just would love to chat with you sometime about how did you get there? This is not a sales call. This is more of a getting to know them call and why they got to where they were getting to. If this is a person that is already in your prospecting 250 list and you've had conversations, you send it to the person that you usually talk to and to the CEO. So you send it to both of them. Again, the CEO is, hey, when you try and talk to the CEO, again, it's just, how did you guys feel like you got there? If you're talking to the person, your point of contact, then it changes more to a sales call, but not to the top. At the top, it's a relationship build. At the where you're at in your calling, it's more of a sales call. Mm-hmm. So those are the two things that are really different. One of the things that we didn't tell you guys is we are going over globally what these systems are. Mm-hmm. These articles we have built into worksheets that are specific and actionable that are on that link that we have. So that's where all the worksheets are. So if you're one of the owners and you're on this call, we're trying to tell you what you need to know in these meetings. Have your salespeople or your marketing people download the links from the place that Timmy gave you, and they will do all the actual worksheets. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that for the first two systems. In this last system that I'm going to show you here, this is the contract end date prospecting journey map. When Tim and I came up with the contract end date system 12 years ago, nobody was doing it, right? Now every vendor that you can think of in the entire world is using contract end date systems. So the paradigm completely shifted, after we, kind of announced it to the world and kind of propagated it out there. It's a very powerful system. Contract end dates. When you get a contract end date, 25% of those contract end dates are going to turn into a proposal. They may not go with you, but they're going to turn into a proposal. So getting the contract end date is very, very valuable. And what we've found over time is that it's no longer just a rep picking up the phone and calling, getting the contract end date, and then 6 months out trying to, work their way into an appointment. That doesn't work as well as adding in the marketing department. And I'm sorry if you're the salesperson on the call, this one is for the marketing teams, right? This one's a lot more complicated and a lot more time consuming, and it's detail oriented, which us sales fellas and gals just we're not naturally good at the detail work, that side of it. But this side is very complicated, so I kind of broke it down into segments here. This is a 6-month countdown cadence, and it starts at 6 months, kind of rekindling the previous call, and then moving from the awareness campaigns that you're going to be doing as a marketing professional all the way through interest, engagement, and then outcome. And the marketing people completely understand, this type of style of, moving people through the marketing funnel. But in month 6 and kind of into month 5, you're just trying to rekindle what you knew before. Once a week, you're going to be doing a phone call. And in week 3, you're going to just try and rekindle the LinkedIn engagement. And then, moving and keep doing that until you move to month 4. If at any point in this final 6 months, you get the appointment, you want to try and get the appointment 90 days out from the contract end date, because most MSPs either have an evergreen contract that has to be canceled within 60 days of the end date, or 30 days within the end date. So you want to get 90 days out so you can be ahead of that as a sales rep to try and help them understand, hey, maybe you should tell your current MSP that you may be considering moving. That is enough to trigger the clause in the contract, just saying you may be considering, to let them know that you may or may not renew in 60 days. So you want to try and get ahead of that if you can. And that's the perfect sweet spot. But going through this real quick, I know we're coming up to our end here. Going through this real quick, in month 4, you want to change from rekindling the relationship to, hey, look what we can do. And this is just you kind of bragging about your company a little bit. And the important part about this is the industry case study. The industry case study is not going to be you. It has nothing to do with you. It's just an industry. So Timmy's point, it could be from the local business journal. It could be from many of the resources that you have out there. The one that I like the best and the one that we use is called MSP Sparks. by Kevin Clune, really good guy, great company, and it's a nominal fee, and he will scrape the entire internet, find a vertical approach for that week, and give you 3 to 4 examples of great industry case studies in that vertical for that week. And he just dumps them into your inbox, and boom, there you have it. And we have tons of them in there that we can use. MSP Sparks, I love that company. So that's the industry case study. If you still haven't gotten them to get an appointment, you go to, hey, look what we can do for you. And now you're getting it directly into them. The sense of urgency is starting to create a little bit here. And you want to send them in week 2, as you're moving through your cadences, a client testimonial that has to do with either their vertical, their neighborhood, or their size. Those are the 3 main things that you want to consider. They either have to know the person from being in the same vertical, hopefully being somebody that they know down the road, or the same size, right? If you can't do any of those 3, then the client testimonial has to be about onboarding. You want it to be about that, because the number one objection that companies have against you and ghosting you is the onboarding is going to be too difficult, is their perception. So that you want to handle that if you have no other recourse from those other things. The last piece here that is super important is in 2 months out, you want to give them a hero story that relates to the client testimonial that you gave them in the previous month. And this is where all the magic happens. The hero story related to the client testimonial. Clients give you a testimonial because you did something special. Usually, that's just usually what it is. You find out what that story was. You create a narrative around it. You build a PDF with that rep's picture. If it was your, network engineer did something super special for this client and they were very appreciative, you create a PDF with your network engineer's picture on it. You complete the narrative of what happened, how they solved it, and then finish it up with the client testimonial again at the bottom. That piece right there is going to get you a conversation. It's just too important. People love hero stories. And then the last piece is you go through your entire cadence. You do another hero story if you can. If you can't do it in the same vertical, again, try and do it in onboarding, and then that's it. And then you have to kind of understand that they're going to say a not now, and you do a floating the line email or a white flag, and then a white flag email.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. So guys, I know we just have a couple moments left, but I do want to open up the floor for anybody that has any questions. If you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A or drop them into the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. If you've got to run, I just want to say that this will be recorded, and we will send out recordings to all those that have been attended today directly, but you'll also find it up on our YouTube channel as well. And, Rob and Tim, I wanted to tell you thank you. I mean, what you've really shared with people is there is a way to maximize your sales effort, right? So, if you come away with nothing from today, taking some untraditional steps and making sure you build a little branding and awareness in a unique way can cut your sales effort in half. And hopefully, the big picture is you continue that same sales effort, but it reaps twice the leads. And, I want to thank both of you for jumping on today and really sharing that information, because, it's fantastic stuff. If you guys want to learn more about Rob and Tim and OSR Manage, I'm going to be including in the follow-up email that'll be going out to you their email addresses so you can get in touch with them directly. And we're also going to put in a special promotion for you if you're looking to build your sales sales team for next year. There'll be a coupon for a discount off of sales maturity as well, and we'd love to see you come into that platform and start taking advantage of some of the knowledge that these guys have put together in document format, as well as tracking your game plan for the long term.
Sure.
So with that, guys, I haven't seen any Q&A come into the corners. It looks like you've covered off on everything. So, with that, I'll thank you for joining us today, and we will give everybody back. Well, I'm not giving anybody anytime today. We're right on 3 o'clock on the head Eastern time.
Yeah, it's right where you want to be. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So thank you so much.
No problem. All right. Take care, Brian.